Before we go into the review, I'm going to express my thoughts on the trailer Disney released as I began writing the script. Cars on the Road is a 9-episode TV show that will stream on Disney Plus in September. It's basically a buddy road trip movie with McQueen and Mater going to the wedding of Mater's sister. First off, why the does Mater need a sister? Is she going to turn out like Patrick's sister? And why aren't the other hillbilly hell people invited? So, along the way, the two go through shenanigans that honestly look dragged out. I don't know, honestly. This was one of those things that was bound to happen. They did it with Monsters, Inc., and it was only a matter of time before they milked Pixar's most profitable franchise. I honestly don't look forward to this. I do appreciate that they got the original voice cast. Cars 2 seems more enjoyable to put on. I'm forgetting this as we speak. So, yeah, that's my take on the Cars on the Road trailer. And okay, now on to something worth watching. Everybody's looking for a way to get real gone. Real gone! Oh yeah, nostalgia just hit overdrive, bitches! Cars was released to theaters in 2005 and was directed by John Lasseter and Joe Ranft, being the last full Pixar movie produced before Disney bought the company, and eventually turning the Cars franchise into a merchandise-making machine. But let's not talk about Disney's secret plan for world domination. Let's talk about the movie. Any car fan or research expert would know full well that Cars put all of its love into the Americana and NASCAR community. They did everything. I mean it. Celebrity guest appearances, hard work, and knowledge regarding the vehicle models, you name it. For the inspiration of their fictional town, the team of Pixar toured parts of Route 66 in Oklahoma, Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, and California. Yeah, they went that hard. Unfortunately, despite all the work they've done, Cars become the black sheep of Pixar, since the first movie was in between two of their greatest masterpieces. The third movie came and went, and the second movie allowed people to pinpoint when the Pixar studio officially lost its touch and started releasing bland movies and lame sequels. But most of all, the constant criticism of why are they Cars, which I'll talk about in the video. And don't worry, I'll do a video on the third movie and this sometime soon. But before all of that, let's dive straight into the plot synopsis. The movie starts with Lightning McQueen, Owen Wilson, shut inside his trailer getting a little excited for this big race. McQueen is a hotshot, self-absorbed rookie who's racing against a bowl of mixed-colored M&Ms, two of which is Strip the King Weathers, voiced by real NASCAR racer Richard Petty, who will be retiring after the race, and Chick Hicks, voiced by Michael Keaton, who's obsessed with chasing after the King's tailfin. Determined to win the Piston Cup, McQueen refuses to change his tires only for karma to blow up in his face, and resulting in Gryffindor, Slytherin, and Ravenclaw to be tied as winner. Sorry, Hufflepuff. However, instead of each of them getting a Piston Cup, a race is being held in California the next week, probably for money reasons. Hope these racers don't have any plans. You know what? Imagine how furious the King is feeling being so close to retirement and losing his chance for freedom. Hope this next race doesn't end up killing him. So after trash-talking the peasants, Mac, voiced by John Ratzenberger, drives McQueen across the country with some road trip music. However, Mac gets tired of the interstate, but McQueen forces him to break the law and stay awake. It isn't until Mac starts getting followed by some tune-up cars: Wingo, who has a beaver tail, Violet from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Purple Guy from FNAF, and Dash's teacher, Bernie. They start harassing him, and even McQueen gets in on it before Mac's like, so McQueen is now forced to fend for himself and has to get to California on his own. He gets off the interstate and speeds past Sheryl, voiced by Michael Wallace, causing a police chase. McQueen sonics into Radiator Springs, destroying everything in his path, including f***ing up the road, and ends up getting arrested. The next morning, McQueen gets towed by Mater, Larry the Cable Guy, to the town courthouse, where everyone in town is waiting, crossing their tires in hope that he'll get the death sentence. The citizens include, yet not limited to, Fillmore, George Carlin, Sarge, Paul Dooley, Ramon, Sheesh Martin, Flo, Jennifer Lewis, Lizzie, Catherine Hellman, Clifford, Joe Ranft, Luigi, Tony Shalhoub, and Guido, voiced by Guido Coroni. Something important to keep in mind is that 6 out of 8 of these characters are completely useless. The judge and town doctor is Doc Hudson, voiced by Paul Newman, and the town attorney and motel owner is Sally Carrera, voiced by Bonnie Hunt. In the end, they decide to force McQueen to fix the road before tearing it up, and McQueen gets impatient and destroys it further.
It looks awful.
Now it matches the rest of the town.
Getting sick and tired of McQueen's shit, Doc Hudson is like, alright Dicknips, you and I will race. If you win, you get to leave. If I win, you'll fix the road and keep your draft-tongued motor mouth shut.
Yeah, okay, deal.
Hudson and McQueen then race, but McQueen then forgets how to walk, or drive, and falls off a cliff, Wild Coyote style. Next morning, McQueen fixes half of the road, and Sally rewards him with a night at her 5-star motel, as Mater rewards him with attempted murder.
But don't let Frank catch it.
Who's Frank?
The morning afterwards, McQueen sneaks into Doc Hudson's garage and finds out that he's the famous Hudson Hornet. And yes, finding a celebrity you're familiar with in a rural town that you accidentally stumbled in can happen, so shut up. McQueen and Sally then go for a drive, and McQueen becomes emotionally attached to the town. When Mater later attempts to destroy the town with tractor cow things, McQueen finds Hudson revving his engine and confronts him in his garage, with Doc explaining his unfortunate crash in 1964, making McQueen buy merchandise at the town's tourist traps. Which, quick question, how did he pay for that stuff? Does he have a credit card or something? Well, anyways, they party loudly with strobe lights, making Doc Hudson be that one neighbor everyone has by reporting them, and resulting in McQueen getting taken away to the big race. At the race, McQueen feels homesick until the Radiator Springs people somehow get past security. Towards the end, Kick Chicks hits the King too hard and makes him crash. At the last minute, McQueen gives up the finish line and saves Burger King from getting the cyberpunk treatment.
They quit on me. When I finally got put together, I went back expecting a big welcome. You know what they said? Your history. There was a lot left in me. I never got a chance to show them.
So Lightning McQueen stays in hillbilly hell, the town gets back on the map again, resulting in Walmart and McDonald's driving everybody out of business, and Dick Chicks gets the death penalty. The end. So let's talk about the movie. It was really easy for me to figure out what the good and bad is from this movie, but writing it down was actually the hardest part given how I've grown up caring for this film since it came out. First thing I'll say is that my favorite part of the movie is the beginning. It starts off with Sheryl Crow's song Real Gone playing, as Lightning McQueen comes out of his trailer, which slowly reveals that this car has mouth and eyes. And then it shows that McQueen isn't the only one, and that the population is entirely vehicles. I bet that everyone who came in blind and did no research on this movie were thrown off guard. We're introduced with an honestly kick-ass looking race and a real lit title card with everyone speeding over it. I really like pausing the movie to take a look at these in-universe products, and the explanation on why the audience is freaking out over these 3 cars was real subtle. It wasn't forced, it makes you feel part of the audience, and it gives us all the information we need. And my favoritism for this doesn't stop here. I love the interactions between McQueen, Luigi, and the King. I love the Rusty scene, and I love the Life is a Highway bit. As for my least favorite scene, I won't lie when I say that the final race is very rewarding. Foreshadowing finally comes to play here, and everyone gets their moments to shine, like Guido's pit stop moment, or Mater reflecting the sun's light.
I taught him that. Good job.
But the reason this final race is my least favorite scene is because it drags on a bit. The first 10 watches are fine, but it's gotten to the point where I just want to skip all of it to get to that incredibly wholesome character development. I think maybe the reason this feels so slow for me is because compared to the last race, there were more racers and therefore more obstacles, but there's only 3, and the noteworthy things that happen in the race mainly happens to McQueen, one of which I feel isn't possible. Like, I don't think you can go over 150 miles backwards, but let me know in the comments. As for the rest of the movie that takes place in Radiator Springs, I like every moment of it, but after the scene where McQueen passes out when he destroys the road using Stanley's humongous that's when the movie starts to lose a bit of my interest. Okay, maybe that's a little unfair. I love the art town scene and Doc Hudson's backstory, but the rest slows down a lot. I know that's a message and shit about the fun being the journey and not the destination, but don't ruin the movie's pacing to shove that message in our face. And what doesn't help is that Radiator Springs, while a cute town, isn't exactly visually interesting. In my entire life, I've never been fond of the desert. It's a flat, dry wasteland with little going on. Not that I'm trying to offend anybody, it's just a kind of terrain that doesn't appeal to me. Now it's time that I talk about the characters, and there is a lot of them, but I'll get most of them out of the way because there isn't anything amazing or fan-worthy about them. The cars I'm of course talking about are Luigi, Guido, Ramon, Flo, Lizzie, Red, Sheriff, Fillmore, Sarge, and even Mac and the King, all of whom aren't amazing but aren't useless because they provide their parts within the story. I would have put Sally in this group, but she's more special because she's the biggest wake-up call for McQueen, and surprisingly, Mater isn't annoying or unlikable compared to his counterpart in the second movie. Even upon rewatch, he's really funny and a great loyal friend for our main protagonist. Speaking of which, Lightning McQueen is just enjoyable beyond belief, from his snarky attitude, his believable growth in his character, and his instant karma. Something interesting is that in my eyes, he's overshadowed by another character. Yep, you heard me. Doc Hudson. Oh, you thought I was gonna say Chick Hicks? I'll be getting to him soon. I feel that Doc steals the spotlight mainly because of his past and character arc. Those couple of scenes are a classic Pixar moment. The scene where McQueen finds out Doc is the Hudson Hornet, the scene where Doc races and is happy that he still has his racing energy after so long, the scene where he explains his backstory, and the ending scene where he becomes McQueen's pit crew chief and grows fond of them. The late Paul Newman voiced Doc 2 years before his death and being the last movie he was ever in. Newman was a veteran racer himself and really wanted to give a real and emotional performance to his character, and by God, he succeeded. The final character I'll talk about is Chick Hicks. Chick Hicks is one of my 3 favorite characters in this movie, with outstanding delivery from the actor and several comedic moments. In the franchise altogether, Chick Hicks is the best villain in the trilogy, but however, he is the weakest regarding his impact on the universe. Axelrod, Z, and the Lemons literally killed people and blew things up, all so they could make any eco-friendly field look bad, so the oil companies don't go out of business. Jackson Storm pretty much inspired every sponsorship leader to replace the racers for next-gen cars, making 42 racers lose their jobs and become obsolete. I wouldn't consider Francesco Stromboli as a villain, since he generally cares for the other racers and is just overall cocky. Now compare them with Chick Hicks. He's just money hungry and is overall a sore loser. He doesn't impact the Cars world at all, other than making himself look like an asshole to the entire racing community. But just because he hadn't made a severe impact in the Cars universe, doesn't change the fact that he's my favorite character, regardless if he's connected to a plot hole, which let me rant about that real quick. How is Chick Dix getting away with the shit he's pulling in the races? He should be disqualified, especially after causing that crash, and especially after he caused the King to do that cartwheel, which everyone saw. Some of you are probably like, well, maybe he did it so quickly. No! There's cameras everywhere, on every wall, on top of the stadium, and on every f***ing ass of every racer present. He definitely should have been disqualified. He caused a fatal crash for crying out loud. This guy looks as if he needs to be on life support. Now, let's talk about a new subject that I don't talk about that much in my videos, because I can't just ignore this one. The animation in Cars is 10 out of 10. It doesn't look dated at all. The animation in the cars themselves is perfection. When gesturing or simply talking, the characters move their bodies in a way that feels logical and not distracting. They didn't push the boundaries like having the wheel axles extend or something. It looks visually pleasant and makes sense, like how the front tires are similar to how we use our hands. And the animation on the cars isn't the only thing that deserves an applause. The light reflecting off of the cars, the dirt clouds. Did you know that they actually animated about 100,000 cars in this one shot? That is insane. As for the songs, they're all great. Last place being Shaboom, 4th place being Route 66, 3rd place being Our Town, 2nd place being Real Gun, and Life is a Highway being 1st. Personally, all of these songs were a great choice for the movie's soundtrack, making it the best soundtrack in the entire franchise. But how the hell did we go from this to this? How is You Might Think a traveling song? I think reviewing Cars 2 is going to make me throw out my back from stress. So, to avoid any other potential injuries, let's get the biggest question out of the way. A question that is asked so much that it killed the first movie's reputation. Why are they cars? Now, I don't work for Pixar, so what I'm about to say is just speculation. The movie having the characters be cars wasn't to make some grand intriguing universe like every other Pixar movie, where we want to know more of how it works. No. The characters are cars as to represent the classic days of America, the 20th century. When thinking about classic Americana, what do you first think of? Probably the slick and artsy style buildings in a small town, or the assortment of classic cars that you'd see in those older movies. And that's what John Lasseter and the Cape Crusaders were aiming for. Think about it. Is it such a coincidence that this movie is filled with so much American stereotypes and guest appearances, while the story itself explains how an interstate filled with greed and impatience completely destroyed what made America, America? No, it's not a coincidence. And I think that the reason people complain and question what the thematic purpose of them being Cars is because they hadn't truly experienced the classic America. Again, this is just my speculation, because Cars was released in theaters in 2005. That's way after this era died out. It's no longer like the Stranger Things, Smokey the Bandit, and Back to the Future settings you see on TV. Nobody slows down or treats locals like family anymore. Things are more high-tech, faster paced, corrupted by greed. Are you guys getting what I'm saying? I sort of feel like I'm doing some unnecessary TED Talk. So, to wrap things up, Radiator Springs is one of those last remaining small town settings with citizens who represent each decade, and McQueen represents the current fast-paced, greedy lifestyle that we're currently going through at this moment. And while I do agree to the overthought questions everyone has on how a car functions, or how things like history or religion works, take a step back and realize that you weren't questioning all of this until Cars 2 came out. All these questions originated from Cars 2, making it all Cars 2's fault. Things in the first movie were subtle and didn't start any frustrating questions. This monstrosity did the opposite. A car from the Chevron company with eyes for headlights and a clear windshield showing a steering wheel? There's a Pope in this universe, meaning that there was Christianity. And Jesus. What car was Jesus? How can you decide which careers you want if you're a plane or a train or a boat? What if this plane wanted to become a police officer or a dancer? Why are these pigeons planes? Does being a car, plane, train, or boat classify as a race or class?
What happened to the dinosaurs now?
There were dinosaurs in this universe? Dinosaur cars? Haha, made our mistakes wasabi for ice cream. But ice cream comes from dairy, and dairy comes from cows, which are tractors in this universe, which ruins the meaning as to why they're tractors. Mater becomes a taco truck. They have tacos now? Real food? Compared to the last movie where they just drank oil? What's up with this dump truck? What animal is he supposed to be? And why is he the size of Jupiter? Finn sarcastically says that Holly designs iPhone apps, so they use iPhones? What? I know they showed the Apple logo in the first movie, but that was subtle. How are they able to pick up iPhones? Mater wrote a goodbye letter. Let me repeat. He wrote a letter. How can McQueen pop the cork on that wine bottle? Or even hold the fucking thing? He doesn't even have hands! Francesco has a mom, which confirms that cars can have sex. How? World War I and II happened. So what car was Hitler? They have tight airport security, but the planes are sentient. Would that mean... Wait, no, this isn't a Cars 2 review. Ah! I told you Cars 2 is frustrating! So that was my Cars review. So, after I got back from therapy after losing my brain cells from this bitch, I'll wrap up this review. I get that people have their own opinions like me, but I honestly don't get why people bash this movie the way they do. It's not like all the other Pixar movies, yeah, but it's without a doubt a good movie. It's nothing like The Good Dinosaur. Cars 2006 gets a 7 out of 10. It's a spectacular classic. But not as classic as Shrek 2, baby! Oh, and I guess Aristocats as well. And...
I'm Mate's girlfriend. It's so nice to meet you all.